Hey, beautiful souls.
We are your hosts for the Bitter to Beautiful podcast. I am Coach Charmin D, and I'm kind of loud, but I keep it heartfelt and real.
And I'm Coach Lonette, and I'm kind of reserved, but I keep it compassionate and honest
Together, we will help you take your bitterness.
and make it into something beautiful.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I am Charmin D, a certified transformational coach who inspires and empowers women who have been hurt or betrayed, helping them to transform from bitterness into beautiful, because bitterness is not better and is not beautiful. I would like to introduce Lonette, my amazing co-host.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Lonette, and I work with families serving as a transformational leader and coach. My mission is to guide individuals toward building generationally, spiritually, and financially, of knowledge and inspiration for those seeking transformation and financial prosperity.
Coach Ashley, can you introduce yourself as well, please?
Yes, good afternoon or good morning, everyone. My name is Ashley. I am currently an occupational therapist, but also enrolled in graduate school for mental health counseling, where I look forward to looking to working with families and marriages, doing family and marriage counseling, grief counseling, and working with children status post divorce. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Ashley and Coach Alannette. Bitter to Beautiful is a forum about guiding individuals on their healing journey. We understand the pain that comes from holding on to hurt and unforgiveness, and we believe transformational power of forgiveness. Through our forum, we provide a safe space for open and honest discussions, offering valuable insights and practical tools for healing and growing. Our mission is to help you break free from those shackles of bitterness and step into the life that is filled with beauty, love, joy, and fulfillment.
Okay, so we just wanted to put a disclaimer out that we are not licensed therapists. However, Charmin is a licensed life coach, but we are licensed by pulling from research and our personal experience. So we wanted to set some room norms and let everyone know that this is a safe space where everyone's opinion is welcome and valued. And keep in mind that we would like to give everyone an opportunity to speak. So if you would like to come up to the stage at any point, please raise your hand by using the hand at the lower bottom right corner to contribute to the conversation, and we'll bring you up to the stage. So, bitterness, as defined, is anger or disappointment at being treated unfairly or resentment. Bitterness is a natural emotion that we all experience at some point in our lives, and it could be the result of a personal setback, professional disappointment, and or relationship gone wrong, to name a few. It may also include being betrayed, cheated on, or lied to. Ephesians 4:31 through 32 in the New Living Translation states that we should get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander, as well as all types of evil behavior. Instead, be kind to each other, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, just as God through Christ has forgiven you. So, Charmin, let's talk about some examples of bitterness. Unmute.
I'm sorry, I was talking to mute. So I was initially going to give a professional experience of bitterness, but I felt led to give a relational experience. About a year ago, I've mentioned this in other rooms before, but about a year ago, I had been going through, in my relationship, been betrayed after 20 years of being with this particular person. 20 years I was betrayed. And when I tell you, the pain was like, no, if I can just paint the visual, the pain hurt so bad. Like I've never felt that pain before, which I had, but not like this. It was different. This pain was different. And all I could do is ask God, is only I can go through this, God, however you want me to go through this, because I know there's something that I have to learn from this. But if you could just remove the pain, Jesus, if you could just remove the pain, because it hurts too much. A pit in my stomach. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't talk. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. But God, can I just say, but God? I don't know if anybody has ever experienced that pain, but God. If you know the God you serve, that's something that you don't want to sit in. That's something that you don't want to experience it. But there had to be a reason for me to go through it. And what I realized, even in that, the bitterness just started to build there. It was like I wanted to fight. I was mad. I wanted to get them back. I wanted to figure out, I wanted to look for her. Yeah, I had to be talked down. Can I say that? But I knew that if I had not forgiven, if I had not been able to trust God and push through it, because He needed me to push through it, that I wouldn't be here today. That's how bad it was. Like I was thinking about doing some crazy things. And again, I'm being transparent as I can be, but be clear that because of the God that I serve, I was able to pray and push through it. And it didn't come in a minute. It didn't come in an hour. It didn't come in 2 days. It didn't come in 3 days. It took some time for me to get there. But because of God, I was able to push through. Again, I repeat it, and forgive eventually. But still, sometimes I have triggers. But that was a bitterness in me that was seeping in me that I had to get past. If I didn't, I would have been stuck. So Lonette, can you give an example of something that you've experienced in bitterness?
Sure. I can honestly say that bitterness for me started in childhood. Growing up, I was always the quiet or shy one, but I was very observant. I saw a lot, I heard a lot, and I watched how people handled situations. I saw how unresolved conflict and offenses, whether in close relationships or those that weren't so close. I've seen relationships be torn apart because of bitterness, because of misunderstanding, because of offenses gone rogue, and people did not know the basic skills of conflict resolution, and so they just sat in it, and it festered, and relationships were torn apart when a simple conversation could have been had to straighten out a misunderstanding. You see all the time, there's maybe sisters who don't speak for years, and it's all over something small with you could have said two sentences and it could have been over with. So getting out of bitterness sometimes may look ugly, and sometimes people make it look nice. People sometimes will smile through it, but it's a matter of the heart and the mind. So you can smile in someone's face, but your heart is saying something different, and there's something different with pushing past something and trying to get through your emotions, but it's different when you're speaking well of someone and your heart means something different. So bitterness for me was unfortunately due to my surroundings, what I saw. While I did see some people resolve issues, because the word says that if we have an issue with our brother or a sister, we are to approach them, and then there's two steps that follow. If you can't handle it between the two of you or the group of you, then bring an elder in. And then the next step is, which I have not really seen, is that you bring it in front of the church. And so it is so important that once we are hurt, once we are angry, once we feel whatever we feel, that we are to address it, that we are to take it in prayer, because if we let it fester, it grows. It grows. What you feed, it will grow. And so, with my own personal experience, I'm grateful that through work, through prayer, through support, I'm releasing that bitterness, and I'm able to shift my perspective and see things differently, see people differently as well. I used to think that it was hard sometimes to heal in a specific situation for marriage. Using marriage, for instance, I used to think that I would not be able to heal within my marriage. And while in all transparency, things are a bit difficult, God has been, I've reached out to God to say, help me. And He's shifted me through a lot of things. And even with that, it changed my perspective on a lot of things. And I'm able to forgive. Not always able to forget, but if you're able to forgive, because that stuff holds on to you. And if you hold on to that stuff, the other person is free to be, and you're living in bondage. The other person is free. They may not know that they offended you, or they may have, and they're fine, but you're holding on to it, and it's causing a number of things. And we'll talk about some characteristics in a bit. Ashley, do you want to share any of your experience?
Yes, ma'am. I'd say for me, excuse me, you can hear me okay, right?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay. I'd say for me, um, I experienced it in my relationship as well, within my marriage, especially towards the end of my marriage. For sure, once we moved into separation and then proceeding with the divorce process, um, because of all the things that had transpired for many years prior, and just trying to continue to work through, extend grace, extend hope, forgive, do the work that's required. Once it finally just came to a head and I realized that that was not going to happen, it it did become like bitterness, that anger and that disappointment did kind of turn into bitterness. And I remember praying specifically, God, I want this situation to make me better and not bitter. And if you look at those two words side by side or one above the other, it's only the difference of one letter, an I or an E. And it's easy to say, and you might think it's easy work to do, but it's a lot of work that goes into moving from a place of bitterness to being better. And it's behind the scenes work, internal work. Like Lynette said, some people will make it appear to be easy, but just as you stated, it's one thing to say that you're not bitter, but it's all about your heart. If you're saying it, but you're still feeling all that anger and angst and all in your heart, then yeah, you definitely still are bitter despite what you're saying. So it definitely has been a process for me. I've had to be very intentional about it, and mindful of the work that I'm putting into it to kind of work on myself. Looking at Ashley, how did you contribute to the marriage, to the demise of the marriage? You know, now that we have three young children and still have to communicate to co parent, how are you going to make sure that you're in a healthy space and you're actually better, not bitter, so that you can do what's best for your children? So definitely takes a lot of work.
That is so good, Ashley. Thank you for your input. The problem with bitterness is it's a toxic emotion that can poison our outlook on life and hinder our growth. It doesn't, there's, if you sit in bitterness, there's no way to move forward. There's no way to grow. There's no way to see purpose because you're so stuck in it. And it helps you to be complacent and content. And God doesn't want us in that space. There are different characteristics for bitterness. Someone who holds grudges, always complaining, ungratefulness, want bad for those who have hurt them. Can I just tell you that was me? When I tell you I'm a whole, oh Lord, I'm a detective. I am a police officer. I was doing some things that I, please, but I'm being transparent, but I could go get them and do these things in my head that I was thinking about that I could do until, and then the enemy just impacted more with it. So let me get back to the characteristics. They're jealous when good things happens to others. They're unable to share in other people's joy. They're acting out to get attention. They're unable to take ownership, but quick to blame and play the victim. Nothing positive comes out of their mouth. They make and defend sweeping assumptions, generalizations, and half truths. Sweeping assumptions means when somebody is assuming something about a large group of people and usually assuming incorrect. You know that's common these days. So let's get this conversation started. Lynette, she will pose the questions. Do we have anybody that want to come up to the stage and be a part of this conversation? We welcome anybody. Please raise your hand. We'll bring you up. But if not, we just gonna move forward. Lynette.
All right. We're hoping that you engage in this conversation with us because we know that we're not the only three who've experienced bitterness. And again, I want to reiterate that this is a safe space. And if you again hit the hand on the bottom right corner, we will welcome you up to talk with us and have this discussion. So the first question is, how do you define bitterness? And how have you seen it manifest in your life or in the life of others?
I guess I can answer that question first. And as I've said before, bitterness looks different in other people. It may not look the same. Although we have characteristics that may be the same, the feeling may feel different. In my own experience, as I stated before, it became, because of the hurt and the pain, it became impactful. It just, I kept thinking about things that I needed to do to this person. I kept thinking about things that I needed. How can I get them back? How could I make them feel the way I feel? So bitterness to me looks ugly. It is not beautiful. It is ugly. And I was sitting in it and I had to get out of it. Um, and in others, I've seen it, especially, I'm not coming down on the church. I'm not going to come down on the church. But when people are used to doing things in their culture, in their environment, sometimes they don't even realize they're reflecting bitterness. And again, I do believe that there are some people who don't know the common rules on what we're supposed to do when we're offended, and when someone has said something bad to us or we don't like. They don't, some people don't know how to do, some people don't know what to do in those statuses sometimes. So I think the key is, once you realize you're being bitter, once you realize you're soaking and being the victim, you have to work to forgive, to move on. Ask people, have conversations with people. Somebody gonna tell you you're being bitter, somebody will tell you you're being nasty, but you have to be able to accept it and do what you need to do to change it. Ashley, would you like to answer that question as well?
Yes, ma'am. Bitterness for me. I know, Lynette, we gave a definition in the very, very beginning, but another one that I looked up and I feel like it resonates with me is um, anger, disappointment of being treated unfairly, resentment. That resentment was me all day, as well as the anger. Another definition says lack of sweetness. So for me, when I was in that place and state, I have a very, I mean, we all do. We know the power of life and death is in our tongue, but I have a very sharp tongue. I'm very quick and witty, and I can say what I need to say to make you feel real, real small. So, like, I may come across as being very quiet and all of that to you guys, but that's come with me working on my tongue and just being more cognizant of what I'm saying, how I'm saying it. I've always been a good listener, but when I was in that bitter state, listen, I would cut said person down real quick without a second thought. I want you to feel the hurt that I felt. Just like you, Charmin, I was a PI detective. I was popping up at people's jobs, ready for whatever at the 3 o'clock in the morning shift. Like it was too much. It got real crazy for a minute there. But for me, it was definitely that lack of sweetness. I'm mean, I'm bitter, I'm angry. I don't care what I say or how I say it. I'm intending to hurt your feelings when I say it, and just very full of resentment.
What about you, Lynette? You know what? Actually, you're right. We listen, the things we can do when we're feeling bitter. What about you, Lynette? What would you have to say about that question?
Yeah, bitterness for me is harboring to the point where you feel it in your body. When I have moments of bitterness, I have um I feel it in my body. You know, you get tense. Your head, when you pass people, it's like, as you're walking past them, you don't want to speak to them. It's rolling their eyes. Just sitting around them, hearing them speak is irritating. Um, and I too am a detective. I say all the time the police department should hire me because I can find anything. But learning to let some of these things go it kind of like I feel lighter. My shoulders is an indicator of when I have stress or bitterness because I get tight and I don't like to feel it. It's uncomfortable. It makes your neck hurt. And then you have to bypass people or not speak to. It takes so much more energy to do that than to confront an issue and talk about it with the person. And while those conversations may be uncomfortable, it also builds a relationship because it's a learning opportunity. Maybe you didn't understand something, or maybe you misunderstood something. It's an opportunity to learn and grow in any relationship. And I see that we have a number of people that joined us. So we're going to call on Coach Pastor, Evangelist Just Kim.
Good morning, everybody. This conversation is absolutely amazing and it is needed. Um, I thank you guys for inviting me up and for having this conversation because somebody's going to be delivered because of this conversation. Understanding the causes of bitterness. I am the only run in I have with being a detective is watching Monk on television. I am the type of person that if I suspect the first time, if I have one piece of evidence, I gotta get out of there. I don't want to know the rest because I know how it will make me feel. I don't need to know the rest. I'm gonna go ahead and bow out of this whole thing. And a lot of people say that they need closure. For me, the event is closure. You did it. You did what you did. I felt how I felt. Now let's go ahead and end this thing because I know what bitterness feels like, and I don't want to sit in it. I don't want to stay there. I don't like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and I don't need all of the information. Just give me the main ideas. I know the important points. I know what you did, and I'm out. There's no conversation. I'm good. So I know that I got to pray about that because that's not necessarily the best way to do things either. Because sometimes people, I don't care. I don't want to be in it, and I'm done, and I'm walking away. I don't know if that's a form of bitterness, and if it is, y'all pray for me. Thank you so much for allowing me to share.
Thank you so much, Just Kim. That yes, it is. But there, you ain't playing. You there? Yeah, we got you. We got you. Miss Carol, can you share?
Good morning, Coach Lonette, Charmaine, and all the beautiful ladies that's on the stage and in the audience, gentlemen alike. Oh my goodness, I had to come up this morning because I wanted to share, and I'm going to just talk a little bit of what caused my bitterness then and how I got over it. So, a lot of you probably have heard my story where I was so called, let me shift a little bit. I was so called, given away, adopted, and how I felt as somebody who was given away. I did not know my father at all. And how did I get to know him? In that period of time, it was, I don't know if anybody has ever felt as if, you are nothing. And so it was hard. How did I get to know my father? 17 plus, almost 18. I applied to go into nursing school, and they said, on your birth certificate, WHYNE is not there and you cannot enter. Now, think of how I remember talking about how this principal said I could make it. I had pushed through all of that to get to nursing school, got the subjects that I needed, and to hear that I cannot because my father not around. It's an old wound stirred up completely. But you know what? God had it, and God was working. I can remember they started to search for this man, this so called man who left me alone and I didn't know him. I was in church because my grand aunt took us to Presbyterian church, and that was a good thing. And I was sitting around a section annex of the church, and I saw this lady and this man came up and reached out to, I think, the usher. I said, who is that? Anyway, I was in church. And then they came to get me, right? And lo and behold, is my father turned up. Can you imagine me meeting this man? Came and spoke to my grand aunt, had dinner at the house. I said, who are you? Who this who are you? Bitter. Who are you now turning up? But then again, I realized I needed his name on my birth certificate. Thank God for that. That was sorted out and everything. I got into nursing school. Bitter still, he was showing me off to everybody. I said, look at you showing me off to everybody, and you were not around. So I had an attitude, and I did not. I just, yeah, you signed, you got my name on the birth certificate. That's all I want for you because you disbanded me. I wasn't around. But, but, God, while I was in nursing school, that is where I encountered God. That is where I repented. Going to church at the Presbyterian church, I was just going there. That's why I got pregnant and had my son. No. But at that nursing school, there was someone who came to pick us up, teachers colleges, nursing school, to take us to a apostolic church. That is where I repented. That is where I came to know God in the true fashion and had to come to face with the reality. Now it's time, you have a bitterness against your dad, and turn me around. And even with that, I had to work on myself. Times when I would look at him, even in his sixth state before he died, and say, oh my God, why did you do that? But I forgiveness is you have an action. You have to keep on doing it. And so that is how I overcame bitterness. Thank you for allowing me to share. Thank you.
Praise God. That was awesome, Carol. We have a similar experience. I didn't know my dad when I was young either, but yeah. See, bitterness comes in all different ways, in all different fashions. Sister Lanice, would you like to share?
Minister Lenise, can you join us? If you on the bottom right, okay, you got it.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Good morning, everyone. I was sitting here trying to figure out what I was going to share, and I come to realize I have quite a few uh, bitterness stories, but I'm going to share my most recent one, and that was with having a very how would I say, almost non-existent relationship with my mom growing up. She had me at 15 years old. And, I guess as being a child herself, having a child, there was so much regrets and so many things that she was going through herself that didn't allow her to be the mom she needed to be to me. And I'm going to condense the story, but literally, like from birth, went into foster care. And I probably didn't go live with my mom till I was probably like 4 or 5 years old. And in being coming to under her care at that age, I didn't have a relationship. I didn't know this lady. The bond wasn't there that a child is supposed to have with their mother when they're first coming to this world. And growing up from a child to a teenager to an adult, very little interaction with my mom. I know for me, I had a hatred toward my mom because even as a kid, I knew. I was like, why do I hate this lady? I didn't know until I got became an adult, and then God started, and I strengthened my relationship with God. That He started to show me that you hate this lady because you didn't have a relationship with her. And then even when I did have interactions with my mom, and we would get together and talk and be around family, there was always this blockage there. There was this wall there. And a lot of it I also realized had the wall was because of her. She had a lot of bitterness and anger that she was dealing with. And it just, all of that just didn't allow. the two of us to be mother and daughter like we needed to be. Well, God did a thing. And like I said, I'm giving a condensed version of this, but God did a thing last year. So in 21, God decided to make me um, a minister. And, I was like, okay, Lord, I'll say yes to you. You know me, I'd rather stay in the background. I don't like being in the front, but, I know I needed to say yes to God to this. And, I invited family members. I invited so many people, family, friends, and majority of the people that I invited to the ordination service showed up. But my mom didn't. And when I tell you guys, that was so hurtful. My mom had hurt me before in the past, even down to being married. When I got married, I'm divorced now, but being married years ago, even down to that day, she wasn't gonna come to the wedding, and so it was just so much stuff. That's why I said I have multiple stories. But um, it hurt to know that she wasn't there for that, and didn't get any response. First she told me that she would come, and then all of a sudden, she's the superintendent of her Sunday school in her church, so she had to be there. It was just every excuse, but hey, I'm a sacrifice. I'm gonna be there for my daughter because she had missed out on so many important moments in my life. So it kind of like really was like, okay, if you miss this one, I don't know what to say about you at this point. But I was preparing myself, honestly, for her not to show up. And she didn't. Like I said, other siblings, aunts, friends showed up, but not my mom. And so, I really had to pray to God because I know I had been dealing and asking God for so long to please deal with any bitterness and anger I had regarding my mother because I did not want that to stifle my life, the things that God had for me in store for me. And I didn't want it to stifle my children, my daughter's life, because I didn't want anything passing on. So we don't understand how that can spill over into our children. So I didn't want, even though my daughter's 26, she's grown, I didn't want that to spill over into her life and keep going. So I know for me, it had to stop here. And for generational purposes, it had to stop here. I had to be the curse breaker with that. I had to be because I was tired of watching what bitterness and anger and unforgiveness was doing to my family. And so I did so November of last year, my mom comes to me and says, "Hey, they're making me a minister in my church." Well, I was like, okay, wow, congratulations. To God be the glory. And I was like, okay, God, I see what you about to do to me. But you know what? I had to laugh. I said, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing. And so she finally came out and asked me, Nisi, will you come? Will you be there at the ceremony at my church? And I just listened to her, and she said, just get back to me and let me know. And I didn't wait. I laughed because as I'm on the phone, my mother, I'm laughing and I'm talking. God is speaking to me, and I knew He was like, "Okay, I'm gonna see what you doing." Like He tapping His foot, going, "I'm gonna see what you gonna do with this one, daughter." And before she could even like come out and ask me anything, I said, "Sure, I'll be right there, ma." And I was telling you, I was laughing on the inside because I was like, I know what God is saying to me right now. I'm gonna see what you're gonna do. And so I got off the phone. I said, "Oh, you really testing me, Lord. That woman did not even show up for mine. And you want me to show up to hers? I'm gonna do it. Why? Because you're my God. You're my Father. And I gotta do things differently. Old Nisi, whatever. Like, yeah, I'm not going to that. You must be kidding me. Go. She can go kick bricks. But because of, I call him Jesus. Because of Jesus, he wanted a different outcome, and I had to do things differently. I wanted to please God, and in pleasing God, I knew my response, my actions needed to represent something different. And so I said, yes, I'll go. But then, do you know, a few days later, she calls me again. I said, wow, Lord, you know what? I don't know what you're doing, but I get it. I get it. Literally called me and said, hey, Nisi, I really, really, really want to ask you a question, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I know you said you're coming, but I wanted to know if you would robe me at the ordination. I said, Father God, what in the world? Is she serious? But she was serious. And God, I said, all right. And before I said, I'm going to do it, she said, I don't want your brother to do it because, he cracks jokes. And it's five of us. I'm the oldest out of five siblings. She said, I want you to do it. I want you to robe me when I'm getting ordained, when they call me up. And sure enough, my spirit man couldn't do nothing else but say yes. But I did it with gladness. I did it with a peace. I did it with love. I responded in a way because I knew the peace that God gave me. It's okay, Nisi, because I've already, whew, trying not to get emotional. I understand how you felt, and you were hurt when she didn't show up for you. But because of how you're going to say yes to this, I have no chance, I have no other choice but to bless you. I have no other choice. I was to bless you for your yes, because you stood and you understood what forgiveness was. You understood what bitterness can do to you. Understood how important it was just to do the opposite of what your natural man would want to do. And so I did. I went, I did it, and I literally stood up there with a glad, gladness in my heart and smiled, and I wrote my mom. And if it wasn't because last year, if it wasn't because my mom lost both her parents last year, so she lost her father in 2 weeks, lost her father first in October, and 2 weeks later, she lost her mother. So I think God shifted something in the spiritual realm when that happened. And he did something because I've been praying for my family for years. And in doing so, I think he broke down a lot in my mom, but she was able to receive and to see and to understand some things differently, that she could no longer be the same way that she's been all these years. The bitterness, the anger, just being mean and spiteful. God did something in her, but it took some loss in her life. And it was a rough year last year for my family, but I'm seeing the fruits of my labor, seeing the fruits of every time I got on my knees and prayed and interceded for my family. I'm seeing how God is moving and how the relationship with her and I have changed. So as of now, that all my siblings, if they're not getting along with their mother, who they call? They call me. Can you go talk to your mother because she did XYZ? And then God will literally have me speak to her, and she breaks immediately and it softens. And she go, okay, Nisi, no problem. So to God be all the glory, ladies. Because when we submit to him and submit to his ways and submit to how he wants us to do things and just put aside ourselves, watch how he moves on our behalf. To God be all the glory.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sissy. Nisi, it is such a privilege and an honor to see you walk through um, you healing from your family and the growth. As Auntie Lurleen, who's below you, says, you just stepped on the devil's neck by showing up for her when she did not show up for you. So thank you for sharing. And I pray that people were able to glean from your testimony. Something that you said about not being close to your mother brought me to a book that I read by John Eckhart, Unshakable. And that book brought up that even from the womb, you can feel rejection. You can feel abandonment. So you grow up and you feel these things, and you don't even realize that it wasn't anything that you did, but it became a part of you as you were being molded and as you were growing in your mother's womb. There are certain events that can take place that really resonate with a fetus. never mind when you are outside of the room. But I also wanted to address Coach Joanne put her definition, and she said, I describe bitterness as allowing your emotions, hurt, and pain to decide for you. Um, AJG said, yes, sis, total submission. We must be intentional about doing things differently. God is so amazing and strategic. So let's be mindful about praying about these things. What you feed will grow, and what you starve will dry up. It won't have any strength, anything to it. I'm gonna get pass the mic on to you, Fabiola. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, ladies. Good morning to everyone on the audience and everyone in on the stage. Excuse me. Yes, good morning. So thank you for allowing me to share. As I'm sitting here, I wasn't sure exactly what to say and how to put it into words. And as I'm listening to Ashley and her definition of bitterness, and just like Miss Linese, she says she has I have several stories I can share as well as bitterness. But I just wanted to piggyback a little bit off of Ashley um, in reference to in reference to having small children. For me, bitterness, what it has done to me, slowly but surely. Um, Lynette just said it too. As you feed it, it grows. And I used to sit and just meditate in it. I didn't see anything else but bitterness. Everything around me was bitterness. Um, as I went through my divorce, um, I was going through a divorce. I was having to sell my home, and I had just lost my son. And so I saw darkness. Everywhere was darkness. But as God has surrounded me with people now, people of Him, people of the Word, people that I can share and speak with, um, and speak unapologetic, intentionally, and be who I am. And what I am learning to through my bitterness as I continue to grow and seek growth in the bitterness is what came to me is that God, I have seen that God surround me. I'm sure I don't know if anyone else sees this, with people that will be there for you before a situation occurs. I have some good people around me, my circle, and I'm always say it publicly, behind screen doors. Kimberly Stringer has always been a friend. She strengthened me and she's helping me grow in my bitterness because I've heard of God, but I am learning God right now on my own with the connection. But Charmaine, I just wanted to thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you for encouraging me to come on this stage. I hope to build more strength and share more of my story as to how I have allowed bitterness to take over my thinking, um, take over my weight, take over um, take over my emotions, take over how I see and view people. It has taken me. It almost took my life, honestly, if I may say so. But learning and I am growing. And I thank God for my surroundings now. I thank God for the platforms such as this right here, this space. I thank God for the 5 a.m. I thank God for the 7:45. I thank God for people that are so transparent that will allow me to help me to open up about my story and not be ashamed and be swallowed up with guilt and shame.
Fab, you
And
went
so,
really low.
oh, can you hear me now?
No, something happened.
Oh,
That's perfect.
ladies, can you hear me now?
There you go. Yes.
Oh, I don't know what's.
We hear you, Fabiola. We hear
Oh,
you.
okay, yes, but yeah. Anyways, I was Oh, and thank you again, Charmaine, for the bitterness. this bitterness, to allow me to share some, just so again, as I continue to grow strength in my walk and in my path, I hope to share more and embrace the stage, and hopefully to be as open and transparent as you ladies that I may too. There's something that I can say and help someone else, just as you guys have the nuggets and everything else that have been said to help me along my walk as well. Thank you, ladies. Have a great day.
Fab, thank you for sharing. You got me messed up right now. I'm praying. I'm all up under the desk right now. God is awesome and amazing, and all we have to do is surrender and let Him. Not try to fix it, not try to figure out how to do it, but let God, because He has it. He knows exactly what we need. He knows every hair on our head. He knew us when we were he knew who we were going to be and what we were going to go through, and He's provided for us in it. So thank God. Thank you for sharing, Fab. Thank you so much for sharing. That touch everybody's touched my heart, but thank you for sharing, because I know that was tough for you. Thank you. Auntie Lurleen, we pass the mic to you.
Good morning, everyone on the stage and everyone on the listening lounge. Bitterness. I really do believe that bitterness is an advanced state. I think it starts with being hurt, disappointed, betrayed, um, deceived, bamboozled, and those emotions, if not addressed and addressed properly, then they advance into bitterness. Um, I've seen people in their lives deal with bitterness, and they are usually, and not always in all areas of their life, but you'll see them being angry people, um, cantankerous, mean, can be disrespectful, dishonorable. Um, and we'll even see that in the church. People who we know to be saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, and they're just mean. And that's something that I didn't want to be. I have a very forgiving spirit, and I think sometimes I'm too forgiving, and I'm quick. I try to be quick to forgive because I know that I've done some things that have not been good and not have been right and not were not right, but I wanted God to forgive me. And then I've had some situations where I've been really hurt and deceived. I was married to someone, and come to find out, the whole time we were married, he had somebody in another country. So when he would say he'd have to go take care of his family with, business for his father in another country, he had a whole side chick. And what was even more hurtful is that his whole family knew about it, and my children and I were the only ones who did not know about it. So they would come to my house, eat my food, spend the night, do all of that, and know the kind of life he was living. Even at the point when we were getting married, I came to find out later on that during our wedding vows, his family was there laughing, wondering if he was going to say the side chick's name instead of my name. Come to find all of that out, that was very, very hurtful, you know. And when I found that out, like everyone said on the stage, I mean, by nature, I'm pretty calm, cool, and collected. But when I say I found out, I got real street. I was at the point where you guys said you were private detectives. I'm private detectives, PI, everything. I'm talking about hacking into computer files, looking all over the place, just doing things that just were outside of my character, even to the point where one day um, I found out during this whole time my dad had passed suddenly, and I was a daddy's girl. And I found out that he was supposed to go away, and then my dad passed. And he was so upset about having to come and be with me and my family because he was on his way to see his side chick. And I found that out. And when I say I got so hot, I ran out of my house in some little bedroom shorts, a pair of flip flops, and I was going to where he was staying. And I'm telling you, I was going to go to jail that day. But God had my director, my assistant director or deputy director call me that morning about doing something. And that was a Saturday morning about doing something on Monday. And he never does that. And when he heard my voice, he knew something was up. And I explained to him what I was going to do. And he said, don't do that. Go home, calm down, and then meet me and we'll have lunch and you can tell me. And that was nothing but God. And when I saw myself get to that point, I said, no, Father, that is not Daddy. That's not how I want to be. And I had to begin the forgiveness process because I didn't want it to advance into bitterness, that hurt, that betrayal, that deception. And I used to cry out. And I know that pain that you talk about, Charmin, because it's like it is beyond labor, it's beyond any kind of pain. And I'm like, God, you've got to help me through this process. And as Charmin said, it's not a 2-day process, it's not a 3-day process. I think really it is a lifelong process because certain things will come up in your mind that will remind you. And then the enemy wants to take you to a certain place. But I was very intentional, like Fabiola was saying, with having people who would speak into my life that when I went off the deep end or, had some thoughts that were not what they should be, that were there to really put me in check and let me know I was out of order. And then I had to get good teaching. I had good apostles that I could speak with, and I listened. I remember Joyce Meyer during that time being somebody that I really listened to, that really helped to penetrate my heart. And then I chose to forgive because, like I said, I have a forgiving spirit. I didn't want to, but I knew that I had to. And it would be sometimes during the day I'd have to. I had to begin to pray for him. And at first, I'm going to tell you, I couldn't pray in English. I had to pray in the Spirit, and when I had to pray in the Holy Ghost, because if I prayed in English, it would have been like David said, kill him dead. And I know that wasn't what God wanted. So I began to pray in the Spirit. I was listening to Joyce Myers. And even in the midst of that, I was still believing God that someday I would get married again. And I listened to Jimmy Evans just about relationships. And I would say throughout the day, Father, please bless him, keep him, make your face shine upon him, be gracious unto him, forgive him, and do him good. And I'd have to say that I'm serious like 100 times because when the negative thoughts came to my head, I had to combat them with something else. And as time goes on, and as you, um, how would I say, just, continue to allow God to heal your heart, you'll get to a point where you don't even feel it anymore. It doesn't even matter that you can gladly pray for that individual. If you see that individual, it doesn't bother you. I thought I saw my ex-husband. I'm pretty sure it was him about 2 weeks ago. He wouldn't come out the car because I guess he thought, "Ooh, I don't know what level she's at." But it's been 9 years, and I'm past that now. And I would have had no problem in saying, "Hey, how you doing? How's it going?" And he even got married to his side chick less than a year after I got divorced. But I'm beyond that, and I can say, "Hey, I hope all is well," because as God lays it on my heart, I pray for him and I pray for her. I pray for their family and I just keep moving and I just keep it moving. And I say, Father, it didn't break me. It taught me. It encouraged me. It strengthened me. And I'm going on to another level. And so I'm just grateful for that. So I wanted to share that. Thanks for having me on the stage, ladies. Love you guys.
Thank you, Auntie Lurleen. We love you too. And we thank all of you for joining us on the stage today. We just want to review a few more things so that you have some takeaways today. There are some consequences of holding on to bitterness, and some potential consequences of harboring bitterness and unforgiveness are an increase of anger, emotional pain, anxiety, and depression. Holding on to bitterness can affect your metabolism, your immunity response, your organ function, or lead to physical disease such as diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, and other physical and mental ailments. Unnecessary strain on relationships due to lack of communication and lack of understanding and empathy. Charmin, give us some tips to walk away with.
And here are some tips to walk away with. Captivate self reflection. Reflect on what you've been through, walk through it, feel it. It's okay. It's okay. And process it and seek God for it. Practice forgiveness. This is a non negotiable. We have to forgive. God has forgiven us. We have to forgive. So we need to forgive. Foster gratitude. Shift the focus towards gratitude and appreciation. Recognize the positive aspects of your life. Embrace change, opportunities to grow and new beginnings. Be open to new perspective. Surround yourself with positivity. When I tell you that after my incident that happened several months, I started going to the 5 a.m. session. We did the Cindy Trim book. It helped me to see me. That is exactly what I needed, because I believe that I was making that person an idol, and God does we don't you know we're not supposed to do no idols. So God had to completely shift my mindset. And the community that I am in, can I tell you, these women of God who are constantly encouraging me, they can carry you from being the wounded little girl. They can give you, we have a resourceologist who can assist you with information that you need and guidance. We have a coach that also helps with communication between parents and children, help you improve your relationship. We have Coach Lurleen, who can help a single woman buy a house, Lord. So this community help with natural hair. And then lastly, we have our Dr. Tavis, who is a purpose pusher, who is dedicated to helping individuals find their true purpose and their spiritual life. We got it. This community, if I can tell you, has been key to me pivoting, to me being able to understand what God has called me for. And without it, I would be struggling now. So thank you. Thank you, ladies, for joining us on the stage. Sister Lonette, please give final thoughts.
Sure. Right above our head, you'll see a little box that says Linktree. In there, there's a feedback form. We want to know how you felt about the room today. We thank you for joining us today. We also have a shirt. So if you want to have a shirt that says Better to Better and it has the Ephesians 4:31 verse on the back of the t-shirt, there's sweatshirts and a mug as well. Feel free to join there. Back channel us with any questions that you have about the clubhouse rooms that Coach Sharman mentioned, the resourceologist room, the 5 a.m. soaking session, and then we also have parenting. And we have a number of people that are in our community that have possibly what you need. No, they have what you need. To God be the glory. And we are also part of a Release It challenge where we are releasing. We're not trying to lose the weight, we are trying to release the weight. So the link to join that program is there as well. Kim, I'm going to open up the floor to you to talk on that.
Thank you so much. But there's one thing that I wanted to mention regarding bitterness, really quickly, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So whenever I'm going through something, I have to find something in the Bible to help me get through. And when I think about bitterness, I think about Naomi. And Naomi said, "Don't even call me by my name anymore. I lost my husband and my two sons. Don't call me, and I'm in a foreign land. Don't call me by my name. Call me Mara because I'm bitter." So, but the one thing that I learned from her situation is, number one, she would not allow that to stop her from going back to where she was. She remained steadfast fast in her faith, and she understood that God would provide the restoration that she needed. So she went back to her homeland, and she took somebody else with her. So sometimes in your bitterness, you're going to help somebody else through theirs too. Because the person that she took with her that decided, I'm not going to leave you, the person that she took with her, she had lost something too. So understanding your bitterness, that you're helping somebody else too, when because somebody's watching. Somebody's watching you go through that divorce. Somebody's watching you go through the death of your child. Somebody's watching you go through the death of your parents. Somebody is watching. So you are encouraging other people when you're getting through what you're going through. Fabiola talks a lot about how I help her, but she doesn't realize that she helps me as well. These relationships they're transactional. Our relationship, we what is it? I think it's symbiosis, I think, where we're benefiting one another. I tried to give up. I tried to stop. She said, well, you need to remember why you're doing it. She said, I understand that you don't like it right now, what you're going through. And that's the same thing with bitterness. And then I said, well, Fab, you know what? You are absolutely right. Everything that I've been through, I got through. So I want you to understand whatever it is that you're going through, you're going to get through it with Christ. So thank you so much for that. I just had to add that because Naomi came to my mind because she called herself bitter. And I do. So the release it challenge, I gotta go put my pictures in the group on Facebook. We have a Facebook group as well because we're trying to release this weight, and not just the physical weight, but all of the other weights that are attached to different things in our life that's causing us to be stagnant in life. So join the release it challenge. Thank y'all. I truly, truly, truly appreciate you all for encouraging me, because see, if it wasn't for you all, I am pretty sure I would not be doing this. And remember that you're not just releasing the weight for you, but for other people as well. Because see, there's somebody that needs to hear your story. There's somebody that needs to see you be successful. So release it, get that old weight off, and let's do this thing together. I am so excited about what we're doing, and I absolutely love this community of women.
Thank you so much, Coach Kim. Thank you, thank you. And we are working hard at it. And I see we have a lot of competitive people in the group, but it's very exciting. Kim said, mentioned Naomi, but if you are in a season where you are Naomi and you are bitter, don't forget and don't deny the Ruth that comes along. Don't push them away. That's very important. So, final thoughts. If we don't process our hurt, pain, and offenses, it will lead to unforgiveness and bitterness. When unresolved, the hurt or offense you experience can turn into bitterness. Bitterness saps or zaps your joy, and it can steal away the goodness from your life. It paints a blue sky black and holds you in bondage. Simply stated, bitterness is not beautiful, and we want to live better. We thank each and every one of you for joining us today on this pilot, where we're going to soon, we'll probably have a few more rooms, but we're going to take this to a podcast and have some of our community members join us as well. But we thank you for joining us today. We appreciate everyone that came up on the stage, everyone that shared in the chat. We thank you, we love you, and we hope that you move forward in love and joy and peace and forgiveness. This room is closing in five, four,
Love you
three,
guys. Thank you.
two, one. Thank you.